You know, we live in this super connected world where apps are constantly talking to each other behind the scenes. So how does your online store instantly know a payment went through? Or how does your code automatically deploy the second you push it? Well, it all comes down to two basic ways that systems communicate, and we're going to break them down right now.
So here's the fundamental problem, right? The one every developer has to solve. How does one app know that something important just happened in another app? Keeping all that data lined up and synchronized across different systems, man, it's one of the trickiest parts of building software today. So how do we actually do it?
Okay, let's break this down with a super simple analogy. I call it the pizza problem. Imagine you've ordered a pizza online, you're starving, and you're waiting for it to be ready. How do you find out when it's time to go get it? Turns out you've really only got two options, and those two options perfectly explain the difference between polling and webhooks.
So your first option, that's what we call polling. And yeah, it's pretty much the equivalent of calling up the pizza place every 5 minutes and asking, hey, is it ready yet? How about now? Is it ready now? It is the digital version of a kid in the backseat of the car just endlessly asking, are we there yet?
The key thing to get here is that term client-driven. In the polling model, it's your app that's doing all the heavy lifting. It's on your app to constantly, repeatedly make an API call to some server, say every single minute, just to ask that same old question. Anything new? Has anything changed?
And this is the polling loop in a nutshell. Your app asks, hey, is the pizza ready? And most of the time, the server's going to say, nope. Then your app just waits. It waits for that set amount of time, and then it has to ask all over again. You can probably already see the big problem here. It's super repetitive, and honestly, most of the time, it's a complete waste of effort.
So, just how much of a waste are we talking about? Well, a pretty famous study by Zapier found that a jaw-dropping 98.5% of all their polling requests came back with nothing. No new data, just nope. Let that sink in. For every 200 times your app called the pizza place, 197 of those calls were totally pointless, just burning up server resources, bandwidth, and API limits for absolutely no reason.
Okay, so let's be fair. There are pros and cons here, right? On the plus side, polling is really simple to set up. Just about any API in the world will support it, and you're totally in charge of how often you check for updates. But the downsides, they're pretty major. Your data is almost never in real time. It's incredibly wasteful, and as your app gets bigger and more popular, this whole model just falls apart. It just doesn't scale.
All right, so if polling is the annoying way, what's the better way? Let's go back to our pizza problem and talk about the modern solution, webhooks. Instead of you calling the pizza place over and over again, this is like the pizza place sending you an automated text message the exact second your pizza comes out of the oven. No wasted calls, just one perfect, timely notification. And this right here is the absolute game changer. Webhooks are server-driven. It's a push model. Instead of your app pulling for information, the source system, the server, pushes the data to you automatically. That's why you often hear them called reverse APIs. The whole conversation is flipped. The server starts the chat, but only when it actually has something important to tell you.
And just look at how much cleaner this flow is. First, something specific happens. A customer's payment goes through. A new user signs up. Bam, that's an event. Second, the server immediately bundles up all the info about that event and sends a standard HTTP post request to a special URL that you've given it. And finally, your app gets that data instantly. It's direct, it's efficient, and it's all driven by actual events.
But, of course, nothing's perfect. What's the catch? Well, the pros are huge. You get your data in real time, it's way more efficient, and it fits perfectly with how modern apps are built. The cons, though, the setup is definitely more involved. Your app has to have a public URL that can receive these messages, and you're putting your trust in the other system, the provider, to actually send the webhook reliably.
All right, the pizza analogy is great, but let's get real for a second. Let's ground this in a concrete example that literally millions of developers see every single day.
So this blob of text you're looking at, this is the text message. This is what your app actually receives. It's a simple JSON payload from Stripe, the payment company. The moment a payment succeeds, Stripe sends this to your special URL. And look, it tells you everything you need to know. The event type is payment_intent.succeeded. Inside the data, you've got the amount, the currency, the status. Now your app can read this and automatically kick off the next step, like shipping the product.
Okay, this all sounds amazing. But it brings up a super important critical question. The whole webhook model relies on your app being there to answer the door.
what happens if your server's down for maintenance, or it just has a random hiccup right when Stripe tries to deliver that message?
And this is where things can get a little scary. This is probably one of the biggest gotchas with webhooks. If your endpoint is down, it can't give a "yup, got it" success message back to Stripe. So Stripe marks the delivery as a failure. Now, the good guys will try to send it again, usually a few times over the next couple of days. But if your server isn't fixed in time, those retries will eventually stop, and that crucial event data, it could be gone for good.
Okay, let's bring it all home. When you boil it all down, the difference between these two models is really just about one thing: push versus pull.
And this table just lays it all out, crystal clear. With polling, it's a pull model. Your app, the client, is the one initiating things. It pulls for data. The result? It's often delayed, uses a ton of resources, but hey, it's simple to get started. With webhooks, it's a push model. The other app, the server, pushes data to you. It's real-time, super efficient, but yeah, it's a bit more complex to set up.
So the big question is, which one should you use? Well, here's my rule of thumb for you. If you're tracking something that changes all the time, like, say, a live user count on an internal dashboard, and it's okay if that number is a few minutes out of date, then polling is fine. It works. But for just about everything else, especially for critical business events like payments or new orders, webhooks are absolutely the way to go.
And that really leaves us with one final big question. Webhooks were a revolution in how apps communicate, but the story is far from over. As we need our systems to be even faster, more reliable, and more interconnected, new technologies are already taking the stage. We're talking about things like WebSockets, which keep a constant two-way conversation open, or huge pub subsystems that can broadcast a single message to millions of subscribers at once. The only thing we know for sure is that the future of the web is real-time.